Good evening, rather good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm audible, I'm visible. Okay. We'll wait 2-3 minutes and we'll start. Good morning, good morning, good morning. That can't be Vikram. That actually can't be. But I'll ask the team again. If that was the case, I'll ask. Saturday it wasn't. Medieval 3 to 5 can come. Shubham, watch the recorded classes. That's not an issue. If you don't have time, you can do that. What's the problem in that? Okay, so I'll mega check. It should be. It would only be written Kirti Varman, not one or two. Implied that there are two Kirti Varmans. We'll talk. I'll see that. Don't worry. Today's agenda is to understand 2 to 3 very important zones. First is the advent of Turks. Basically, we have to traverse between 900 to 1200, and to be very specific, 1192, 900 to 1192. And once we do that, we will move to Delhi Sultanate, establishment, plus the Mongols, and I think the political history of Delhi Sultanate should be done today. So we start with the Palapratya Rajputas and the Cholas, but now we will expand our vision to add the two stories together, which is Central Asia and India. So we'll wait 1 more minute and then we'll start. Namdev is here. Has Namdev joined? Arush Namdev. Anybody called Namdev here? Yeah, Raj, you are Arush Namdev. Aarush Namdev. You send me an email right now. Exactly as we speak. So your email I've got 2, 3 till third time, and it's blank. but I guess your original issue is that the original PPT of ancient history and annotated PPT do not match with each other. Do not match with each other. Now you tell me, how do I make them match? Because I was going to not reply to you but discuss it with you. If I come with module number 1 and I have to cover, for example, 100% of the portion, and because of you or someone else, I can only reach 75%. So my next PPT should not start with the 25% which is left, rather with module number 2. Matlab, have you lost your mind in the morning? 3 mails you send me. So how do I align the PPTs, you tell me? So you've done, please do the needful. You tell me what is the needful. So I should, wherever I stop, I should, so basically I should not teach advent of tux, because this will not align with your PPT again. So let's do one thing. Let's start from here. We'll start from here because this is a new module. अब align हो जाएगा एकदम. Annotated PPT will get aligned with your module which you have is unannotated. Let's start from here, right, Raz? Arush, Namdev. So let's start from here. Then it will perfectly align because this is the agenda. So sending an email is very easy. You tell me, what should I do? No, it's not about sorry sir, it's about thinking what you're writing. बोल के sorry बोलना बहुत easy होता है. You have not, I thought once you will realize your mistake. Second email, before you joined right now, you send a blank email to remind me. Module number 2 of ancient history is Vedic and Mahan Bandhata. When I open annotated PPT, it starts with Chalcolithic age. It is like this for every module. Similarly, the first module, medieval history, is starting with medieval history, but annotation is starting with Pushyabhuti dynasty. So all the modules are not in line. All these entities are not in line. Please line up all the modules and update them. And language also, you are ordering me to do it. You tell me what should I do. So the rule is going to be jahan tak pahunch gaye, bas wahin tak we will reach, and then I'll leave that section and align it the PPTs with you. But you are not able to figure this out and you are preparing for the examination. I am not here for your sorry. I am just here to tell you one thing, which is that this attitude is not going to work, at least other places, not with me. You could have said, please sir, नहीं मुझे align करने को बोल रहे हो. You are like, करो align. You align one and one. I don't know how. Aligned is wherever we reach, then I move to the next module. Easiest for me. I will finish the module also very quickly. So please remember, before you send an email, what are you typing? Please. Very rarely I bring up anybody specifically, but right now I saw it on my watch that you had again sent an email. Arush Namdev. याद दिला रहे हो, नाम तो याद रखना. Come on यार. Vikram, I'll give it to you. I have to forward that email to the team. Okay. Can we start advent of talks or सीधे दिल्ली सल्तनत शुरू कर दें? Can we start advent of talks? Everybody's here. Hunas are a tribe of Central Asia which troubled the Guptas, later Guptas. Okay. Now, till Friday, we covered a certain portion which is to understand early medieval dynasties. And we established a certain picture that there were the Pratiharas in the central sector. You have the Palas, the Rashtrakutas, and the Cholas. This is called the tripartite struggle, and the Cholas are chilling in the south and dominating the Bay of Bengal. And this is the picture where we stopped. We talked about early medieval dynasties from the decline of the Guptas till this point. And we were also able to see certain questions which have come previously from this section. So now our agenda was to take the story forward because I still have only traversed between 750, we started around 500, and we have only reached till 900 C. But what is called 10th century, 10th century, Shubham, that is of optional level understanding. Anekavad, non-Anekavad, that is all Jainism, that is optional level. Then 900 C to 1192 is a period which is important because by 1206, the Delhi Sultanate will be established. So you need to understand that what is happening in this 10th to 12th century period, and specifically we have to add another story into this picture, another story into this picture, wherein you have Pala Pratyahara Rashtrakuta, that is totally fine, but now the northwestern sector is going to become important, and therefore what I am going to cover with you is the story of North India, or what we call as Northern South Asian sector, rather southern part of it in northern Indian subcontinent, and we have to traverse. Then the history of this period generally is not very detailed given to us anywhere, specifically not given to us because there were no indigenous sources as such. But for you and me, the purpose is to reach till the point where Gori will come to India. We have to reach the battle of terrain. Now, there were two ways I could have gone about it. I could have very simply told you through a descriptive way, through a way of giving you basic points. But I have chosen the other one, which is basically to give you a certain evolution of the Indian subcontinent through maps. And I am covering in Satish Chandra a whole chapter, which is called the story of North India or the struggle for North India. And we will now try to understand what is happening in India and in Central Asia at the same point of time. But the Central Asian story till Ghaznavids and till Gori are not important to us. It's just that you need to know what is happening in this sector, which is east of, or rather west of, the Afghanistan sector. So what we've established is that when I look towards the Indian subcontinent and the larger perspective of the what we call as, rather we'll not even start at 900, we'll start around, let's discuss 800 to 900 period. When I turn my attention towards this time in the Indian subcontinent, I have already established that you have the Pratiharas here, the Palas here, and the Rashtrakutas here. Cholas are here. This we already know, yes or no? Have we established this in the last class on Friday, that there are the four dynasties in these areas? Now, I need to add one more picture, which is that beyond this line, what is the power in Central Asia? And the power at this point of time beyond this line is called the Abbasid Caliphate. Abbasid Caliphate. Now, whatever I tell you about it is more than enough. Where you need details, I will give it to you. The Abbasid Caliphate, spanning from parts of northern Africa to whole of West Asia as we know it, the Saudi Arabian Peninsula, the whole of it, was the last major Islamic dynasty in this area, wherein it's called the Caliphate because the ruler is both the political and the religious leader of Islam. When the leader is both the religious and political leader, he's called a Khalifa, and that is why it's called the Abbasid Caliphate. Now, Abbasid Caliphate had dominated for a very long time, but the attempt, when we look towards Abbasid Caliphate by 8th, 9th century, it is showing a lot of stress. Standard recipe of decline of most of the caliphates, of most of the empires. But what is more significant is that from the north, a specific community had been entering into the Abbasid Caliphate, only in low ranks. They're called the Turks. Turks coming from modern day Mongolia and modern day Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Aral Sea sector. There are two types of Turks in this world. One are called Islamicized and non-Islamicized. Non-Islamicized means that they are not converted to Islam or have not converted to Islam. And Turks, on the other hand, also have one group which has basically become Islamicized. Turks would be in a way a ethnicity in a way, because Central Asia has multiple tribes. Turkish identity is specific to a ethnicity, which is it's a cultural identity. But within Turks itself, there's no homogeneity because some of the Turks turned towards Islam, some of the Turks did not turn towards Islam. But the point was that within the Abbasid Caliphate, a sizable portion of these Turks who had converted to Islam, which only tells us that within themselves they were also not united. Amongst the Abbasid Caliphate, they will enter as palace guards, as mercenary soldiers, as it's called the Ghazi soldier. And the Turks were very good in fighting, that is for sure. Turks were very, very good in fighting. And the North Indian sector is very, very stable. But the caliphate is now starting to waver around. And therefore, when I specifically go to the period between 900, 800 to 900, if I remove this 900 from here, specifically this period of 800 to 900, Islamicized and non-Islamicized means that they have converted to Islam and not converted to Islam. That's it. Islamic Turks and non-Islamic Turks. Turks is an ethnic identity. They have their own pagan god. They have their own tribal identity. But some of them got what we call as a part of the concept, got converted to Islam. Now, in this specific period between 800 900, the Abbasid Caliphate starts to show proper decline. And whilst in India, the Pratiharas, the Palas, and the Rajputas, along with the Cholas, are showing a lot of strength, in the Central Asian sector, beyond this line, now there will be a new dynasty which is called the Samanid dynasty. Basically, the Samanids were a ethnic identity within the Abbasid Caliphate. And for your purpose of analysis, Abbasid declined to give birth to Samanids. And in the Samanid dynasty, the Turks had now become a little bit more important. A lot of important officers by this point of time were Turks. But the point was that the greatest empire, which was there for a very long time in Central Asia, basically got a major push from its internal issues, and that in turn leads to one of the officers rank Samanids capturing power. Samanid Safavid are not the same. Obviously, spelling is also not the same. I mean, if they were called Safavids, I will call them Safavids. No, Samanids are Samanids. Turks got converted to Islam because they were part. No, it's not that they were part of this Abbasid Empire. There's a whole movement at this point of time in Central Asia where certain communities are moving towards Islam. That is again an immaterial question for you because that is Central Asian history. And for that, I need to give you a lot of backstory. You just take it on face value that Abbasid Caliphate, because this is not the period I'm interested in. I'm interested in the next set. I am telling you that there's the Abbasid Caliphate, India is stable. I don't care about Central Asia. Thereafter, India is again stable, and now the Abbasid Caliphate is given birth to Samanids. Is this hard to understand? Is this problematic? You have a lot of questions about Abbasid and Samanids. That is of no immaterial point, that is of no importance to you. Wherever it will be important, I will discuss it with you. Can I move forward? I'm trying to show you the evolution of this whole sector through maps as a way of learning, because that ways it makes more sense. If not, if you will read it out, it will be too much movement, too many dynasties. Okay. Now the next most important, Abbasid leads to Samanid. This much I am already taught you. I'll mark the slides so that you know. 1, 2, this is 3. Abbasid Caliphate within Samanid dynasty. No. Samanids were officer ranks or an ethnicity within the Abbasid Caliphate, and the Samanids rise out of Abbasid. How the Shungas rise out of the Mauryas, how the Indo-Greeks rise out of the Seleucid Empire. It is a standard process of change. So Abbasid leads to Samanid. Now, within the Samanid dynasty, and this is the most important period for us, in the period between 900 to 998, within the Samanid, there was an officer. His name is called Alp-Tigin. You'll find his name as Alp-Tipin also. He is a Turk. He is a Turk. And now the Turks have become very powerful, have basically become, in a way, very, very engrossed in the administration, and they are kingmakers. So if they want, Alp-Tigin or Tibin, whatever you want to call him, Alp-Tigin can basically capture power if he needs to. And that is what he does. In the period between this 90 years, by 997, 996, 997, 996, 997, Alp-Tigin will capture power. And for our story, the most important point, he will establish the Ghaznavid Empire. Ghaznavid Empire. So in this map, I only want to show you one thing, which is that here there is a movement from Samanis to Ghaznavid. And to one thing I want to point out, it's called the Ghaznavid Empire because of the fact that they rule from a place called Ghazni. So understand this point that Ghazni till today is there as a place. Ghazni is a place. So this movement between Abbasid to Samanid to Ghaznavid is very important, because the first major problem for the Indian subcontinent is going to rise as the successor of Alp-Tigin, and his name is going to be Mahmud of Ghazni. And in the Indian subcontinent, between 900 to 998, there are multiple changes which are going to happen, which I'm going to discuss with you in the next slide. And we are all care about this. I don't care about Abbasids. I don't care about Samanids. I only care about the Ghaznavids as of right now. From Abbasid to Samanid to Ghaznavid, Central Asia, it is changing one after the other. But what is more important to us is what is going to happen in India as soon as we look towards India in 998. So when I look towards the period of 998, it is very, very important. 998 to 1030 CE. This is where the main thing is going to happen. Multiple things will happen in both this sector. Okay. Now you have the Ghaznavids sitting here. The de facto border of India is something like this. But now what happens is that in the Indian sector, the feudalistic tendencies, the way land grants were being given, the way we had fragmented polity, now it's going to take a toll. And for the first time after a very long period of stability, in India, there will emerge multiple political structures. So whilst the Pratiharas still survive in name, and Rashtrakutas also survive in name, and the Palas also survive in name, but the Cholas are still very powerful. Now the Rashtrakutas, the Pratiharas, and the Palas will start to give birth to a lot of different smaller powers. So you will have the Tomars, the Chauhans, the Gahadwalas, the Senas, the Chandelas. They have started to emerge very significantly. They have started to emerge very significantly. These are basically successors, but two very important dynasties will emerge in this sector. One are called the Hindu Shahi rulers, and the other one is called the Sultans of Multan. Gujarat sector is not properly under anyone. It is under you have local dynasties and local powers. So you can see this is literally the way how fragmented polity emerges. The Tomars, Chauhans, the Ghadwalas, Chandelas, Senas are nothing but feudatories of the Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas, and the Palas. The Pratiharas, Rashtrakutas, and the Palas did not stop giving land grants as a form of salary, or land grants as a form of appeasement, or as a form of service. That is in turn leading to their feudatories becoming powerful. And this is the basically feudatory politics. All of these powers which have emerged, the process is the same. Were under the Pratiharas, Palas, Rashtrakutas, and started to thereafter become powerful and powerful and powerful, and then defy the central authority itself. So here Pratiharas, Palas, and Rashtrakutas have started to waver. They have started to become a little bit weak. But this period of 998 and 1030 is also the period of a person called Mahmud of Ghazni. Now, Mahmud of Ghazni, from where do sultans of Multan have regions in the flux which is happening in this border? Hindu Shahi rulers are also Pratihara feudatories. The question to where do they come from is always going to be the same, or rather the answer to the question that where do they come from is going to be feudatories. I have not been teaching you for 7 hours feudatory politics for you to ask me this question. They automatically come out of the central authority once they become weak. Are we clear where they emerge from? Because I don't want this question to be repeated. Be it Thomas, be it Chauhans, be it this, be it that. Sultans are Muslims. Yes, this is a dynasty which is just on the cusp of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and they are Sultans of Multan. They were part of the larger politics of the flux which is happening in this interaction, and had started to emerge by the period of the Samanids, took a lot of portion of the Pratiharas in this area. Okay, as I said, I'm not interested in the backstory. Now, Satvana started it, and this is why I called Satvana's concept as a way of a poison which was introduced. As a poison which was introduced. So Hindu Shahi rulers, the Sultans of Multan, Tomar, Chauhans, Gadwala, Chandela, Senas, all are feudatories only. Now, as I said to you, in the Ghaznavid Empire, the successor of Al-Tigin is a person called Mahmud of Ghazni. And in Indian history, Mahmud of Ghazni is not known for what? In Indian history, Mahmud of Ghazni is known for what? He came to India how many times? 17 times. Very good. And every time when he came, he went to one sector for sure, which is the Somnath sector. To Gujarat, he came. Now, there are multiple questions we need to answer. And the first one is why? Why would or why did Mahmud of Ghazni come to India? And the answer to that question is the Ghaznavid Empire was expanding in all directions, but specifically in the western sector. You see here, he was going towards the European sector. And what Ghaznavid had, Mahmud of Ghazni had, ruling from Ghazni itself, the biggest problem he had was that whilst he is going towards this area, from the north there are multiple attacks by non-Islamicized Turks. Non-Islamicized Turks, basically saying that why did you basically betray us in a way? And he is having a lot of pressure from the north. In Iranian history, Mahmud of Ghazni is not seen as a villain, but he is seen as a protector of the Islamic culture of Iran and Iraq. But if you have constant warfare, what is that one thing which you need the most? You are expanding also, you are defending also. What is that one thing which you need? You need resources and money. And basically, whenever Ghazni came to India, he had zero political intentions. He had zero political intentions, which is that Mahmud of Ghazni had no territorial intentions. Territorial intentions. He had no territorial intentions. He never wanted to expand into India. And the reason for him to come to India were more economic than religious. It's called economic religious interaction. See, if you will ask a random person why did Ghazni come, he will fall into the British trap to say that the pure reason why he was here was because of Hindu-Muslim issues. That he wanted to establish and destroy, and he wanted to destroy Somnath, he wanted to destroy temples. But going to temples and going to Somnath, there was a very important reason for that. If you are in early medieval India, what is that one place where for sure you will find wealth? With no banks there, where will you find wealth for sure? Temples. Temples have got Devdanas grant. Temples have got so much land and so much money. Till today, certain temples hold more money than certain state GDPs. And Ghaznavi and Ghazni realized that. So, whilst not denying the temple destruction, not denying how he destroyed Somnath, not denying that he would not have had a certain religious connotation to what he was doing, for Ghazni, India was an ATM. Whenever he needed money, he looked towards the Indian subcontinent. He came, he looted, and he went back. So, in the examination, and this is all Satish Chandra based understanding, very academically established also, you agree, disagree, totally your call. The point is that the first point is Ghazni never had territorial intentions. Ghazni never had any territorial intentions. The other intentions are economic and religious, and we believe that it may be that it would be 60-40 or 70-30, wherein economic was a more bigger consideration which he had than just religious. I'm trying to cleanse and sanitize a little bit of the communalism which the British spread in this area so as to justify their own stance. Anytime the British try to glorify a certain moment wherein they started to argue that invader came and looted and went back, what are they trying to justify themselves? They did it, for example, for the Indo-Greeks and the Kushanas and the Shakas also. They will do it for the Vedic and the IVC also. And they'll try to argue this in the context of Ghazni also. They are trying to justify their own presence in the Indian subcontinent. They are based their own rule, which is that it is the rule, it is the wreath that India will always be open. Somebody is going to come, loot, and go back. So try to understand this point. A religious connotation is there because he's targeting Hindu temples, and being an Islamic ruler, that level of destruction, that the way he will basically destroy the temples, and the way he's going to take, for example, the Shivlinga of Somnath itself to Central Asia, there will be a certain religious undertone to it for sure. You cannot deny the fact that there is a religious undertone here, that the way he did it was religious, but the intention was coming to India was economic. I really want to say something, which is that in the examination, they will give you statement based questions. And if they say that Ghazni turned towards India with territorial intentions, that is an incorrect statement. That is the only thing I want to say. Other than that, economic and religious, you leave it to who you are going to talk to. Both considerations are argued, but it is more economic than religious. But the other important question is, why is that it is so easy? Is the first part of the discussion clear? Why did he come to India? What is the reason for that? He knew that India was very, very prosperous. He knew that he would always find money in temples, and that is why he targeted temples. Now, the second question is that why was it so easy? He came every time. 17 times he came. Now, in this, the religious argument becomes even more weaker if you look how he basically came. Ghazni always used to cross the Hindu Shahis, used to go to Somnath, and whilst going back, he used to always defeat the Sultans of Multan and go back to Ghazni. This was his standard route all 17 times. Now, ironically, there's a very well documented understanding and very well documented conversation. See, he knew that Gujarat was very prosperous. He knew that Somnath he will find money every time. And every time Ghazni entered, all out of the 17 times, I believe the 13 times, the Hindu Shahi rulers were standing. Anangpal and Jayapal and Anangpal, the father and son duo, will literally take the brunt of Mahmud of Ghazni every time. They literally were destroyed in the process of defending the Indian subcontinent. And every time Ghazni used to go back, the Sultans of Multan used to stop him. And if it was religious, then Ghazni would have not touched the Sultans of Multan because both are Islamic. Ghazni did not care. He defeated the Sultans of Multan also every time. And Ghazni is a very powerful commander and a very powerful leader. So his military strength is so strong that these smaller rulers basically can't do anything. But what we have documented is correspondence between Hindu Shahi rulers, Tomars, and the Chauhans. Basically, after the second or third time, the Hindu Shahi rulers contacted the Chauhans and the Tomars. Chauhan sitting in Delhi, Tomar sitting in the area of what we call today the Chauhan sitting in Ajmer, Tomar sitting in Delhi. They were rising at this point of time. And Hindu Shahi rulers used to write and used to say to the Tomars and the Chauhans that I know and I understand that I cannot defeat Ghazni. that we have tried to do it 2 to 3 times, it is not working. We should come together and we should protect the Indian subcontinent. We should protect and fight with Ghazni. So there's documented fables and stories and documents within the Chauhan, Tomar, the Delhi Sultanate preserved that type of document itself. There is a documented evidence that the Hindu Shahis wanted an alliance between the Tomars, Chauhans, and even the Sultans of Multan were ready to come into that alliance. But guess what the Tomars and the Chauhans and the Pratiharas said at that point of time? What they said was not my problem. This is called feudatory mentality. Basically, they said that Ghazni never came to us. Ghazni is like the Urti Chidiya which is going because we've never heard of him. Because Ghazni never went straight into Delhi or straight into Ajmer, Hindu Shahi rulers always got defeated. And Ghazni knew that if he takes a specific route, he only will meet two dynasties. Now, this is where the problem of feudatory politics is making India pay for what we were doing or what these people are doing to India itself. And you tell me that if the Chauhans, the Tomars, the Pratiharas, Hindu Shahis, if they all came together, would Ghazni have so easily every 17 times come and loot an India and go back? And the answer to that question is a resounding no. These are Rajputs, and these Rajput dynasties, Kshatriya dynasties, very, very powerful in their own self and very brave and valor driven. So, if any of them came together, there was no chance Ghazni could not be defeated. Ghazni could not be defeated. So, Ghazni's advantage was that India was so politically fragmented that even if the Hindu Shahi rulers were seeking alliances with the other feudatories, feudatories said that when it will come to me, I will see it to myself. So there are two things which we needed to establish, which is why did Ghazni come and why was it so easy? And the reason being fragmented politics, feudatory mentality, and territorial and non-territorial intentions. Why does he use the same route to go back? Because the point is, for that you would have to understand passes. When he comes from the north, he comes from the Khyber Pass. When he goes back, he goes from the Gomal Pass. For that, he has to take a specific route only. And both passes are placed in such a way that one pass is controlled by the Hindu Shahis, the other pass is controlled by the Sultans of Multan. So, very simply, this period 998 to 1030 proved to us that the history of or the history of Indian subcontinent is developing certain tendencies which are not good for further what we call as further political history, or something impending is happening. Because as of right now, Ghazni did not have territorial intentions. He just wanted to come, loot, and go back. So for 17 times, nobody really cared. And the Hindu Shahi rulers were literally ravaged every time, and close to three of their two major rulers, Jayapala and Arangpal, both basically lost their life in battle against Ghazni itself. So something is wrong with the Indian subcontinent, and that is indicative in Ghazni's interaction with India itself. Can we now move to the period after Ghazni? Because are we clear about Ghazni? Why is he coming? What is his intention? What is the basic consideration? And why is it so easy for him to do what he's doing? Yes. And whilst all of this is happening, Cholas don't care about anything. They are dominating the south. They are dominating the Southeast Asia. Chill like the Cholas, don't have to worry about what is happening in North India, because they will be very stable for a very long time, whilst all of North India will go into chaos at one point of time. So we move a step further. So specifically what he looted, is it not relevant? No, it does. I don't. He looted gold, silver, All temples, what they have? Money. Literally took everything, money. But what did he took is of no purpose to you. UPSC is not going to ask what did Mahmud of Ghazni take with him. That is of no purpose to you. If you want to read it, you have Satish Chandra to give you the details, and there are multiple books to talk about it. You have any area where you want to concentrate, I will be happy to share a book with you. There are multiple books written about it. I am teaching you GS UPSC purpose. What matters to me, I am teaching you. I know it. It's a story which is not even relevant for UPSC optional. History optional also, they don't have to go into the list of things which he picked up. But that's an academic discussion. Do Ghazni alone came to India? If so, also Hindu Shahi rulers can't stop him. Ghazni alone is very powerful. Turkish soldiers have multiple advantages, which I will talk to you when I'll talk about Gori. But Ghazni can't be stopped by Hindu Shahi rulers. Hindu Shahi rulers are too small a feudatory to stop somebody like Ghazni. Ghazni is expanding single-handedly in the European sector and north. So don't underestimate Ghazni that way. Hindu Shahis were not powerful. Thomas Chauhans are powerful, but they don't care what is happening to the Hindu Shahis. Now, we move to the most, what we call as consolidatory phase in Indian subcontinent. See, in the PPT, it's given the looting was political in nature, not religious. So, what is implied in that line which you see here, this line, exact line, is from yes, the looting was political in nature and not religious. This exact line is quoted out of Satish Chandra. So Satish Chandra would argue that the political nature is engrossed in economic. That why is he taking that money? He's taking that money for his political ambitions. So he has never had any territorial ambition. This exact line has been picked up from Satish Chandra. I'm giving you the tagline which UPSC wants you to use. So I've given you this. I would have come to this later, but because we're having this discussion, very simply, if this line is written in the examination, it is correct. Because UPSC goes with Satish Chandra. When these people got to know about Ghazni looting, they were every time they kept money in gold. But temples are temples. Temples can regain money very quickly because faith is faith. Okay. Now, that is the point, Raghav. Okay. Can I talk about 1030-117 CE? Okay. Now, in this period, from Abbasids to Samanid to Ghaznavids. Ghaznavids decline, and so then Hindu Shahi rulers didn't seek any help from others. They did. Nobody helped. You are asking me the same thing I'm telling you 5 minutes before. Ghaznavids. Now the Ghaznavids decline after Mahmud of Ghazni. They were not strong enough, and somebody called the Seljuks come to power. There are different type of Turks, but they're Turks only. Different ethnic identity. And the Seljuks were engrossed in their own politics so much that they never looked towards India. So in the northwestern sector, in a way, became stable when it came to the Seljuks. But in India, there is an intense period of very important consolidation. Very important consolidation. And that consolidation is that the Chauhans and the Tomars used to be separate. But the Chauhans will emerge as the single largest power in the Rajasthan, Delhi, Punjab sector because of the fact that the Tomars were now under the Chauhans. The Chandelas will consolidate the Deccan sector. Thereafter, the Solankis will start to rise in the Gujarat sector. There was one more dynasty which comes, or rather usurps power away from the Pratiharas, and they're called the Gahadwalas. The Senas take over what the Palas had, and the Cholas still are oblivious to what is happening in North India in that regard. So the Chauhans and the Gahadwalas in that regard become the two major dynasties which have consolidated North India, and starting as feudatories, they have emerged as a very important set of powers in this whole sector. There are others also. You have the Paramars, but I am not concentrating on the Rajputs, which are not important to the story. Which is that you have the Paramars, you have other smaller Rajput dynasties, but these two are the biggest two. The Cholas were powerful. Why they never tried to go into North India? Because the Cholas don't care about North Indian politics. They're happy to dominate the Bay of Bengal, and you will not, and they are not cognizant of what is happening in northwestern sector. And even if they are, they don't want to make someone else's problem their own. And this configuration is very, very important to understand, because the Chauhans who are ruling from Delhi, Gadwalas who are ruling from the Kannauj sector, the Senas in the Bengal sector, the Solankis and the Chandelas giving in a way strength to Gujarat and Deccan area, they are still in a way feudatories. But they've started to consolidate their position. They started to consolidate their own position. The Tomars did not decline, the Chauhans captured the Tomars. Tomars went under the Chauhans. That is feudatory politics. And now we have a very important canvas in front of us, because something very significant is going to happen between the period of 1117 to 1191 CE. And what happens is that coming from the Abbasid to the Samanid to the Ghaznavids to the Seljuks. Now the Seljuks will not be succeeded by one, but it will break up into two dynasties. One will be called the Khwarizmi dynasty, and the other one is called the Ghor or Ghuridian dynasty. Ghor is a place. Ghurid dynasty. Ghazni is a place, Ghor is a place. But the way they are stacked up is that the Khwarizmi dynasty has the most fertile sector, which is the Iran, Iraq, and that whole sector, which is much bigger, much more prosperous. And caught up in within the Hindu Kush is the Adi Ghurids. And in India at this point of time, the Chauhans have now become the de facto rulers who control this border. So if anybody enters into the Indian subcontinent, Gahadwalas, Senas, Chandelas, Cholas. If anybody enters into the Indian subcontinent, it will be the Chauhans who will basically become the de facto border. The de facto border. Now, the person who comes to rise in the Gurid dynasty is a person called Muhammad of Gori. He's also called Munuddin, Muizuddin. He's also called Shahabuddin, but we call him Muhammad of Gori. And the one who's ruling here is called Khwarizm Shah. Khwarizm Shah. Khwarizm Shah. Now, Khwarizm Shah is is actually very powerful vis-a-vis Gurids. And one thing was very clear that there was a lot of pressure which was created on the Gurids by the Khwarizmi dynasty for certain sectors. And the problem which Muhammad of Ghor has, is that he can't go towards the west. He can't go towards the west because the Khwarizmi dynasty has no no real weakness at this point of time, and he is too small and not having that much resources to challenge the Khwarizmi dynasty itself. So Khwarizm, at this point of time, has an upper hand over the Gurids. And now Muhammad of Gori, having been heard of the Sone ki Chidiya, if you want to call it, or the most prosperous subcontinent in the whole of South Asia, now Gor turns his attention towards India. Turns his attention towards India. The reason why Ghazni never came to India was because his western sector was open properly. That Ghazni never wanted to add India into his empire because he was more engrossed in going towards Europe. But basically, Gurids are sandwiched between two powers. In a way, they have on their left or in the west, they have the Khwarizmi dynasty, and in the east, they have the Chauhans who are now holding northern sector. So he is very clear that he can't defeat Khwarizmi dynasty, but he now wants to try his luck to come to India. So one thing is very clear that Muhammad of Gori, when he came to India, he had clear territorial intentions. He had clear territorial intentions. He wanted to expand into India because he had no other option, and he was, as it is, locked between two dynasties. So, do we understand the reason why Gor and Ghazni are different, or Gori and Ghazni are different? What is the fundamental difference between Ghazni and Gori? Because Ghazni does not want to come to India because he has the western sector open. It is the Khwarizm Shah. It is basically Khwarizm Shah who's forcing Gori to come into India in that regard. Are we clear about the territorial desire and why is Gori different with or vis-a-vis Ghazni? Because if we are, then I am going to discuss the turning point in Indian history, which is called Battle of Terrain, first and second. Can I get a yes or a no? Okay. Now, till this point, everybody is following what is happening. India starts as this with feudatories, Hindu Shahis and Sultans of Multan. They ceased to exist after Ghazni because they had become too weak. And now India is poised for an invasion by no one else but Muhammad of Gori. And it is the Chauhans who have to face him. Now, Gori, when he started from Gor, he had two options. He has the Gomal Pass and he has the Khyber Pass. He has the Khyber Pass. Seljuks were not headed by both dynasties. Seljuks were one unit. They broke up into two dynasties. Now, what mistake Gori did, Gori did, was that first he tried to come via the Gomal Pass. He went via the Gomal Pass. But if you enter from the Gomal Pass, you then have to cross this whole sector. And he reached a place called Mount Abu. The area which I've dotted is which area of Indian subcontinent? That is the Thar Desert. So basically, he had to cross the whole desert to reach Mount Abu, and the local ruler of Mount Abu defeated Gori, and Gori had to go back. Gori had to go back because Gori realized that this is not the way to basically go to India. Ghazni was very smart to come through Khyber, go back from Gomal. But he's entered from Gomal and he's basically not in a position to even defeat the local ruler here. So his movement, if you will look at it, is restricted by his army becoming fatigued whilst entering from this sector. Whilst entering from this sector. 1 second. Now, now, once he goes back from the Gomal Pass, next time he enters not from Gomal but Khyber. If you go to the Khyber Pass, you reach the Lahore sector, and now sitting at Delhi, a person called Prithviraj Chauhan, or precisely called Prithviraj Chauhan the third, he will get to know that a person called Gori is moving towards Delhi. And Prithviraj Chauhan will thereafter decide to intervene, and at the first battle of Terrain, they basically meet at a place called Terrain, which is in modern day Punjab, Haryana. The first battle of Terrain, Prithviraj Chauhan is now going to meet Muhammad of Gori. But the problem which Gori had at this point of time was he underestimated the power of Prithviraj Chauhan, who had a very, very big elephant-based army, and he came with a much smaller number of soldiers, thinking he was basically exploring. And he had lost a lot of men in the Gomal Pass incident. And in the first battle of Terrain in 1191, Prithviraj Chauhan wins. And Mahmud of Gori saves his life and goes back. But now something very significant is going to happen. Prithviraj Chauhan realizes that Gori was not up to its full strength. Everybody understands till this point? First battle of Terrain, anybody any issue? No issue. Now, first battle of Terrain, Prithviraj Chauhan realizes that Gori was not up to his own estimates and power. So now Prithviraj Chauhan contacts his own father-in-law, Jayachandra of the Gahadwalas. In different stories, he's seen as different things. In popular stories, he's called the father-in-law of Prithviraj Chauhan because he was married to the daughter of Jayachandra. But very simply, Jayachandra is contacted by Prithviraj Chauhan, and Prithviraj Chauhan says to the Gahadwalas that I met with a person called Mahmud of Gori, and I've been able to defeat him once, but he was not up to full speed. He was not up to full capacity. He will come back and we both need to go together. and we both need to fight together. And though initially Jayachandra would agree, when it came to fighting in the second battle of Terrain, Jayachandra sent a small note to Prithviraj Chauhan, which was not my problem. And basically, the Gahadwalas did not take part in the second battle of Terrain, where Gori came with proper preparation. So again, feudatory mentality has made sure that the Chauhans go alone against the against Mahmud of Gori, which who already has now an idea what Prithviraj Chauhan is. And therefore, next year in 1192, the second battle of Terrain will happen. Second battle of Terrain will happen. Again, Prithviraj Chauhan will fight with Muhammad of Gori, but this time Gori will win. And this is 1192 is considered a cutoff date in Indian history because this will complete the Turkish invasion, and by 1206 this will lead to the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. But that's a separate story which I need to tell you when I tell you why it is called Delhi Sultanate. Now the question remains, why did Prithviraj Chauhan lose this time? Now, before I do that, I'll read this basic story out, but I hope that these maps will help you generally in consolidating this story. I hope you understand the evolution. I could have taught, I've basically given you 60 pages, 60 pages of Satish Chandra in eight maps in that regard. If you will read the story, it is exactly the same. I've summarized the story through maps, which is I'm trying to show you the evolution, how it is happening, how it is moving, and how it is changing. It 1292 Turkish invasion ends and Turkish rule starts because Gori, all of these are Turks. Ghazni is a Turk, Seljuk is a Turk, Seljuk Turks as they're called, and Gori is also a Turk. So 8 slides are done, and I hope that you understand this evolution because then I'll read it out from the PPT also and we consolidate everything. Please don't watch serials and movies about these things because in a very major movie which came out about Prithviraj Chauhan, the director confused between Gajni and Gori. So please don't. He did not know that it was Prithviraj Chauhan fighting Gajni or Gori. So leave it. There's a time difference between these two. From Abbasid to Khwarizmi to Ghurid, are they considered Turks? No, Abbasid is not Turk. Khwarizm, till Samanid, they're not Turks. Ghaznavid is Turk, Khwarizmi is Turk, Seljuks are Turk, Khagori are Turk. So see, from the period of 1000 to 1200, there was multiple changes in West and Central Asia. The Turks had now started to become a major power in this sector with them transitioning or migrating from the northern sector. And by 9th century, Abbasid Caliphate was in decline. The Turks had entered the Abbasid Caliphate during the 9th century as palace guards and mercenary soldiers. Soon they emerged as kingmakers and now had to started to become governors and now are also becoming independent in that regard. Towards the end of 9th century, the Samanids, who were Iranians by descent, rose to power and took away power from the Abbasid Caliphate. This is the Samanid dynasty. And the Turks had now become kingmakers because if they shifted their loyalty, they could basically make anybody the main ruler. And now these Ghazi soldiers, these Turks, had become the most important power. The Samanid kingdom soon ended and the Ghaznavids took power with Alptigin and Alptipin capturing power in that regard. Now, the most powerful ruler of this whole set is Mahmud of Ghazni, who will ascend in 998, and he will first start to defend the Central Asian sector from Turkish, non-Islamicized Turkish invaders. And for that, he has been known as the protector of the Iranian culture and spirit. However, he invaded 17 times. He came to Somnath, he took what he wanted, and he went back. Now, in India, at the same point of time, when as soon as Ghazni starts to come, the Rajput dynasties will start to rise. So the Tomars were the first one to rise in Delhi. Feudatories of the Pratiharas will rule over present-day Delhi and Haryana. It is their ruler, Angpal II, Anangpal II, who will be founder of Delhi or Dikhilapuri. And more than that, the problem was that though the Chauhans were not, though that the Tomars were not sitting in this sector with not less power, but the Chauhans will rise from Ajmer and capture the Tomar sector. So Tomars were powerful, but not as powerful as the Chauhans. So the Chauhans in that regard will rise from the Ajmer sector and they will capture Delhi. First, they will take Ujjain from the Paramars and then they will take. So they were basically expanding very quickly from the Ajmer sector towards the Delhi sector. Now, these are the other dynasties which existed. You have the Palas, we already know about them. Chauhans, the Guhilas or the Sisodias, the Rathor, the Chandelas, the Paramas, and these two are again, these two are not basically the Rajputs of this area, but Rathors, Chandelas, Solankis, Paramas, Sisodias, and the Chauhans will become the major powers. But in this, the two most important for us is this and this and this. These three are smaller powers, and these three will later also become engrossed into the Gahadwala politics. Now, the configuration was such that the Ghaznavids will decline, that will lead to the Seljuks coming to power, and the Seljuks will give rise to two powers, Khwarizmi dynasty and the Ghuridian Empire. The rising power of the Khwarizmi Empire severely limited the Central Asian ambition of Ghurids, and Khurasan, which was the bone of contention between these two, will be captured by Khwarizm Shah. With no option left, Ghurids will now look towards India, and in 1173, Shahabuddin or Muhammad or Muizzuddin Muhammad bin Sam will now come to power and look towards India as an option. And he thereafter will get involved in the first and the second battle of Terrain, and he will lose the second battle of Terrain, he will win the first battle of Terrain, he will win the second battle of Terrain, and that will in turn establish the Delhi Sultanate. And the basic story about them is also given here. What I want to discuss is why were the Turks able to expand, which is a two-part discussion. Can we do that? Once we do that, we take a break and then we talk about Delhi Sultanate. I've read the whole story out to you, but it's much more elaborate than what I've told you. How Delhi became important? It's not that Kannauj was not important. Delhi became important because Dikhilapuri, which is Tomars, established a very important city, and thereafter the Chauhans took it. And because the Chauhans were defeated, Delhi came first. So Kannauj will remain, but Delhi was because of the Tomar Chauhan connection. Now, there are two reasons why the Turks were able to expand: socio-cultural, and other is technological and military. Do we have to read about temple architectures of Chauhans and Tendelas? No, not right now. Later, when we'll talk about art and culture. First is feudatory politics and mentality. Second is fragmented army, because at the end of the day, Chauhan himself has feudatories. Sir, how in 1191 Chauhans were in power? So, Nirmay, you are now waking up and asking me the whole story again. Chauhans are feudatories of the Pratiharas. They rise not in 1191, but even before that, when in the 998-1030 period they were there. They will start to expand, capture the Tomar sector, and become the single most larger power in northwestern and North India after the Gahadwalas. So you have Gahadwalas and the Chauhans controlling this sector. Are we clear about that? Again, coming from a gap, 15-20 minutes, Indian Railways for fragmented or feudatory politics and mentality and fragmented army. And as I was saying, that because Chauhans themselves had feudatories, if the Chauhans started to lose in battle, most of the feudatory armies used to leave, saying that there's no point fighting for Chauhan because he's not our ruler. So basically, feudatory mentality goes on till the last point, wherein if there is chaos in the battle, the feudatory fragmented army means what? An imperial army and an army of the feudatories. So what is happening is that the feudatories are leaving Chauhan and going because they said that it is your problem. We were asked to come and fight, but we will not fight. So it is the political fragmentation and nature of polity which meant that the Turks were never going to lose, because once if all of these powers don't come together with their full capacity and their military tactics, they would win. So I think right hand side I have been establishing since I taught you Satavahanas. Since Satavahanas, I have been teaching you why that tendency is going to be very dangerous. And I hope that you understand that the 1, 2, 3 point is nothing but which started during the post-modern period, became an acute problem in the late Gupta period, and by this point of time has become a problem for the Indian subcontinent itself. Are we clear about that? Yes. Now comes the advantages which the Turks had. There are three major advantages which Muhammad of Gori has. First is that he has a horse based army, not elephant based like Chauhan. Now there are two problems with an elephant based army. Firstly, they are very slow in movement, and second, that if a horse is able to starkle, basically hit the elephant on its nose, it in turn leads to the elephant going out of control and trampling the infantry of your own army itself. The second is called mounted archers, which can only come with what we call as a stirrup, iron stirrup. Now, if you've ever ridden a horse, you would know that there's something like this on the side in which you put your leg. Have you ever ridden a horse? Have you seen this in which you put your legs inside? This is called a stirrup. This is called a stirrup. And what stirrup does is that it basically gives a lot of grip whilst riding a horse. A lot of grip riding a horse. And this grip was used very effectively because what Gori had was that his archers were actually mobile, which is that Prithviraj Chauhan's archers used to wait for the enemy to come and they aim while standing. But these Turkish soldiers, they have very good aim even while sitting on the horse, and while going like this on the horse also, they are able to take very good aim. That is because the stirrup gives them a lot of grip. And mounted archers can basically, mounted meaning mounted on horses, can basically wreak havoc in an army. And that is what they did. So because they're mounted on horses, they can move around and they're very quick. So they will go in one flank and then go chaos, the other flank and then put in chaos. The point is that here there were certain military and tactical mistakes also which Chauhan did, which meant that the second battle was already a done story. As soon as he mounted archers, he came with a much bigger contingent of mounted archers. And more than that, he had the iron stirrup. Plus the fact that his whole army was able to move around in the battlefield much quickly. The elephants, which had helped him in the first battle, had now become a liability because the elephants were either getting startled or were either becoming killing their own infantry because they were just going into a certain fright and then going like this and removing their mahant and the people sitting on their back. So one is that there is a socio-cultural issue wherein Chauhan was never helped by anybody, and second is that the second time when he came, Gori came prepared, properly prepared. So if we understand why did Gori come, how is it different from Ghazni, what is the reason why the Turks won, and what is the changes which happened between 900 to 1191, then I want to give you a break here and then talk about the Delhi Sultanate. The first part of the story is clear. The first part of the story is clear. Ain't this war leading to animal cruelty? Yes. You didn't say that people are also dying. So people die, then animals die. So you tell me who has bigger cost in the battle at this point of time. Okay. Which was best for horse to have? Horses are always better because always horses are quicker. Elephant based armies have strength, but elephants are very quick to startle and very slow to move. So we come back at repeat the caliphate. Caliphate means when the ruler is both the political and religious leader, he's called a Khalifa, Abbasid Caliphate. So we will come back at 7. What we can come back at 35 also, we can come back at 40. Let's come back at 7:40 because I want you to be fresh. I'm giving you extra 5 minutes so that you come properly prepared, because Delhi Sultanate initial history, you will get to know a lot of things which would not have been told to you ever. So I'm going to discuss the Mongol threat and we have to discuss the Mongols, so it is important that you understand it. Why Chauhans are not horses? Ayash, the point is horses are always rarer in India and elephants are show of strength. And it's not that the Muslims or the Islamic rulers did not do the same. When Ibrahim Lodi was fighting Babar, then again Babar was on a horse and Ibrahim Lodi was on elephants. It's a tradition in India that you show strength through elephants in that regard. So we come back at 7:40 and we take the story forward. Right? Okay. See you. Welcome back. Megha, I saw your email. I think that's an issue in the unannotated PPT. You can correct that. Totally fine. I'll get that corrected. Can we start again? Okay. Now, I'll get that. Oshin, after class, nobody's awake right now. Only after class, I'll tell them what is that. I'll tell the team about the test. Don't worry. Okay. Now, this is a very important module. There are three components to it. One is basic political history. The other one is something which the UPSC has started to become obsessed by, which is the concept of Mongols. Thereafter, you have Ikta, Alauddin Khilji market reform, and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, what are called four experiments. Four experiments. So these are the five components which make this module itself. But the question here is, out of Satish Chandra, four chapters and one from 7th class NCRT. Now, as I said, these two, along with administration, the three biggest, most important. When we talk about polity, society, these are much lower importance, but equally important because you have to now be introduced to the rulers in that regard. Now, what I want you to understand is how will Gori in turn lead to Kutubuddin Aibak, in turn leading to be called Delhi Sultanate. Because there are three major myths about this period itself, a major myth about this period, which is that we tend to miscategorize a lot of these things due to either communalistic history or generally misinformation, WhatsApp University, whatever it may be. So you need to understand certain very important concepts. So what I'm doing is I'm now going into political history. I will discuss Mongol and political history together. So the Battle of Terrain has happened. Gori has established the fact that he is powerful enough to defeat the Chauhans. He will eventually also defeat the Gahadwalas in a separate battle. But the point is, now Gori has a big empire. Now, Gori has a big empire. He is ruling from Gor, and now he basically has two basic components to his empire. One, which is the Indian subcontinent side, and the other one would be the Central Asian one. Other would be the Central Asian. Now, what is more important here is that Gor was not very young. He's a very old man. So he wants to go back to Gor and enjoy his empire. So he appoints two governors. The governor of the Indian sector is called Qutub Uddin Aibak. And the one who controls the core area, the governor, is a person called Yalduz. Is a person called Yalduz. And Gori himself is sitting at Gor. both Yalduz and Qutbuddin Aibak have equal power, equal status. And in Islam, you have this whole slave trade, which is called, where you can buy able-bodied men and soldiers also. And basically, Qutbuddin Aibak and Yalduz both were the slaves of, in a way, though they're not given that the word you slave, as soon as you hear the word slave, the black slavery comes into your mind or Dasa Dasi tradition comes. This is not like that. You can be involved in these type of trades, and more than that, able-bodied men and soldiers there used to be a market for that. So Yalduz and Qutbuddin Aibak, equal status, both important, though both important to Gori. However, now what happens is that Gori dies. He has Delhi in his control and Lahore being the cutoff point. Now, as soon as Gori goes back, Gori falls ill and Gori dies. And as soon as Gori dies with his death, Yalduz becomes assertive. Yalduz becomes assertive. Wherein he says that because I rule over the main area, he wanted Qutbuddin Aibak to now not be governors. He wanted Qutbuddin Aibak to report to him. At Lahore, Yalduz wanted Qutbuddin Aibak after the death of Gori to report to him. But Qutbuddin Aibak said that why should I report to a person who has already been equal to me? So Qutbuddin Aibak in 1206, after Yalduz having multiple attempts to assert his power, Qutbuddin Aibak says, I choose to now not be part of this Ghuridian empire, and rather I will establish my empire and my control separately, and I sever all the ties with Central Asia. And basically, Qutbuddin Aibak comes out of the Ghuridian empire, and that is why we don't call it Gori Sultanate or Gor Sultanate or Central Asian Sultanate. We call it Delhi Sultanate. Because Qutbuddin Aibak in 1206 will establish Delhi Sultanate as a political unit separated from Central Asian politics. And you will not realize right now, but in the history of India, this separation is going to be very important and very decisive. But the categorization of Delhi Sultanate comes from here, wherein Qutbuddin Aibak has separated India from Central Asia. And that is why it is believed that Delhi Sultanate had no, what we call as, imprints of Central Asian politics also. These Delhi Sultans started to now inculcate and develop as getting from what we call as, they were now inculcating indigenous and Indian sources. And this is basically, you can call the Indianization of the Turks. Because what happens is we tend to argue that they are separate to the larger story, but they are equally part of the subcontinent as any other ruler which is going to come or was there. Because if they were connected to Central Asian politics, then Delhi would have had a very strong Iraqian, what we call as, influence. Culturally, in their notions of political power, and architecturally also, I will show it to you when I will teach you art and culture. Delhi Sultanate rulers were taking more from the Hindu and the Indian traditions than actually Central Asian traditions. That is why Indo-Islamic culture is called Indo-Islamic culture, because the Indian element is quite strong. So the first point I'm trying to argue here is that there's a very important reason why they're called Delhi Sultanate and they're not called Central Asian Sultanate. And second is that even though Kutubuddin Aibak came from Central Asia, after 1206, Delhi's development is more part of Indian history than Central Asian history. And it is independent of Central Asian politics. More decisively, this division from as the Indus River is going to be very decisive in the next 2 to 3 years. Are we clear about categorization? Are we clear about Kutubuddin Aibak, where he comes from? Are we clear about the importance of understanding this period as an integral part of Indian history itself? Right? Okay. Now, I have been talking about this division very important, as being very, very important. And this division is very, very important because, see, the rulers, I'll write down the names of the rulers itself. Total names of all Delhi Sultanate. There are basically three major dynasties. Aibak was a Turk. He's a Turk. He's a Turk. Mamluk Turk, they're called. You have the Mamluk dynasty, previously also called slave dynasty because Kutubuddin Aibak was a slave, but he's basically a Mamluk Turk. That is why it's called Mamluk dynasty. In this, you have four major rulers: Kutubuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Razia, Balban. Then you have the Khiljis. Here you have two major persons: Jalaluddin Khilji, Jalaluddin Khilji, and Alauddin Khilji, the most powerful of this whole set. And thereafter, you have the Tughlaqs. In this three, Gyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq. I am telling you the most important. The last ruler, in a way, of the Delhi Sultanate is considered to be Muhammad Tughlaq, or rather Mahmud Tughlaq. Mahmud Tughlaq. Now, in certain books and certain teachers also, what they do is that they add Sayyids and Lodis to also Delhi Sultanate. Shreyank has already asked me, what about Sayyid and Lodi? But the problem is that Sayyids had nothing to do with the Delhi Sultanate. Sayyids were appointed by a person called Timur. And Sayyids and Lodis are called pre-Mughal polities. Lodi still had something to do with the Delhi Sultanate, but for me, 1206 to 1414 is the period of Delhi Sultanate, which is the academic way of going about it. 1414 to 1450 is Sayyids. This is Delhi Sultanate. And from 1450 to 1526, 1526, 1450 to 1526, Lodis. And 1526 to 1707 is Mughals. But in books, they include Delhi Sultanate. तो थोड़ा बुक के बाहर आ जाओ, क्या हो गया? You can come out of the book. What is the issue? So the other two are considered pre-Mughal. Yes, they're called. This is called Delhi Sultanate. They're called pre-Mughal dynasties. You want to add them to Delhi Sultanate, you add it. You don't want to add it, don't want to add it. Byju's test issue, I know, no issues. You go, I have pointed that to the team, they will remove it. Not an issue. You very simply, I'm not teaching anything, then what will you understand? I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. Mamluk. These are the rulers of the Delhi Sultanate. There are for some of you there are 5 dynasties, but academically there are 3 dynasties. Mamluk dynasty, Kutubuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Shimrazia, Balban. Khilji, two rulers. Jalauddin Khilji, Alauddin Khilji. And Tughlaqs, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Now, understand this point. Understand this point. Sayyids were not part of the Indian subcontinent. They came with a person called Timur, who was a Central Asian invader, and he appointed Khiz Khan as the next ruler. I will discuss that with you. Now, the simple point is, mostly in academic circles, we don't see Sayyids as part of Delhi Sultanate because Khiljis were part of the Delhi Sultanate, Tughlaqs were part of the Delhi Sultanate as officers, but Sayyids were not part of the Delhi Sultanate. But because these old categorization and certain books and certain teachers are still stuck in that categorization, they add Sayyids and Lodhis to that list. Now, for the purpose of the examination, UPSC will never ask you that. Maybe certain mock tests will, certain something will. If it says Sayyids Lodhi is part of Delhi Sultanate, go with it. But it is a wrong statement outrightly. But as I told you, sometimes you don't know what is the level of the examiner, so you can't really do anything about it. If an informed person is going to come, he will very simply say there are 3 dynasties in Delhi Sultanate. 2 are pre-Mughal rulers, and then Mughals come. Now, I leave it to you. Whatever you want to believe, you believe. That is the point. Academically, it is not accepted. For cultural purposes, for your popular imagination, I leave it to you. In the exam, see, I am telling you, firstly in the exam they will not give you such a simple statement. Tell us the dynasties of Delhi Sultanate. Itne easy nahi question aane wale. First. And second, if they do ask you that, and if the tone of the question is assertive, go with it. But I really don't care about this. What I care about is that you understand the dynasty, not the dynasties, but the rulers. The names which have been written on this screen need to be remembered in the sequence they have been given, and that is a given with regards to Delhi Sultanate itself. The issue, I will leave it to your judgment when I'll talk about Sayyids, for you to decide should they be part of Delhi Sultanate or not. Can I move on and rather discuss the more important point, which is Mongols? Delhi Sultanate is called Delhi Sultanate because Kutubuddin Aibak broke off from Central Asia, and the simple point is he did not want Yalduz's subordination, and he will develop in India a new Islamic Turkish rule, which is called the Delhi Sultanate, based on the Delhi Sultans. I will tell you where the Khiljis come from, where do the Tughlaqs come from. First, let me teach something. Where they come from, I will teach you. First, I've just written down the names. Why Mughals only till 1707? तो एक काम करते हैं, let's move to modern India straight. एक काम करो, let's forget this. First, let me teach you something. 7 classes are there. I will tell you till why 1707. This is something which I pointed out last week also. आगे का जानना है, ये नहीं. I don't care about this. वो बता दो कि वो 1707 में क्या हो गया था भाई ऐसा. Aurangzeb died, that is why 1707 is important. That is why it's called 1707. But I am talking about Delhi Sultanate. You are obsessed with 1707. So, something will happen in 1707. I will tell you that. Can I come back to the story which matters? Have no idea about Delhi Sultanate. Talking about Mughals. But later Mughals go till 1857. Very good point. Very good point. Perfect. But that is called early modern. नहीं इधर चलो एक काम करते हैं इसको 1857 कर देते हैं. Then I don't know where you will put the British. एक बहादुर शाह जफर के लिए, for one बहादुर शाह जफर, you are making it 1857. And if you are telling me modern India, then you should listen to me also that after Treaty of Allahabad, the Delhi Sultan, the Mughal emperor was a pensioner of the British rule. So in a way, the Mughal emperors were subordinated by the East India Company. But इतना technicality में जाऊंगा तो कान से खून आ जाएगा. So rather, can I talk about Delhi Sultanate? Can I talk about Delhi Sultanate, please? I will talk to you about all of these things when it will come to the point. You have to be patient. You are not being patient. Now, Qutbuddin Aibak has separated the Delhi Sultanate and now created an independent rule in India. But the more important point is that at the same time when Delhi Sultanate will be rising, there will also be a major threat into human civilization rising in the form of Mongols, and his name was Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, whatever you want to call him. Between 1206 and 1210, Qutbuddin Aibak is going to rule. But now comes the first consolidator of the Delhi Sultanate, which is Iltutmish. I'll give you the details about Iltutmish, about these rulers in their political history. What I want to discuss right now is the Mongol angle, and then I will, once I've established the Mongol threat, then I will talk about the Delhi Sultans in that regard. Now, 1218, Genghis Khan is going to rise. Now, I'm not sure how much you know about the Mongols, or do you know who Genghis Khan is? To say the least, he is the most brutal, most powerful, and single-handedly conquered 80 to 90% of Central Asia, along with China, Mongolia, and parts of West Asia. At one point of time, his empire used to touch the Mediterranean at one side and towards the South China Sea in the other side. And Genghis Khan is considered one of the brutalist rulers because firstly, he's not a Muslim. He has his own understanding of religion. Mongols are a tribe. And today, if you do a DNA test, there's a chance that Genghis Khan's DNA would come in your DNA also. 1/3 to 1, close to 40-45% of the whole world population has Genghis Khan's DNA. Because Genghis Khan only knew two things. Once he conquered, he burnt down civilizations. He used to kill every man there existed and loot and rape women. Genghis Khan in human history is considered the brutalist and the most ruthless rulers there has been. And understand this point, and this point will be never emphasized to you or will never be told to you in important narratives. If it was not for Delhi Sultans, and specifically Iltutmish, Balban, Alauddin Khilji, Jalaluddin Khilji, we would be right now speaking a different language. We would be speaking a different dialect. We would look different. And our culture would not have been the same. Our temples destroyed and Indian civilization burned to the ground. Because between 1218 to 1327 till 1357, for close to 100 years, Mongols remained a big threat to the northwestern sector. And it is single-handedly the Delhi Sultans who stood between the Indian subcontinent, and the Mongols. And it starts with Iltutmish himself. And Iltutmish has been credited of single-handedly being the reason why a very angry Genghis Khan did not cross the Indus River. And there's a story behind that. Can I discuss that story with you? Because UPSC has now started to ask questions from this area itself. The story goes like this. Very straightforward, very simple. The Khwarizmi Empire exists. Then you have what we call today as the Ghurid Empire. And then finally, what Kutubuddin Aibak now is controlled by Iltutmish is the Delhi Sultanate. And in a way, the dividing line between the Ghurid and the Delhi Sultanate was the Indus. And if you reach till the Beas, you have basically have to cross the Beas River, and then you can come into India. Now, what happens is that between 1218 period, Mongol Khan has gone from Genghis Khan. Rather, Genghis Khan has gone from the Chinese sector to Mongolia towards Caspian Sea, and now he wants to go southward. And the first dynasty he encounters as soon as he goes south is the Khwarizmi Empire. And remember, the Mongols are very good fighters. No combination of rulers can defeat him if there is no unity. Now, Khwarizmi Empire, the person who was sitting at Khwarizm is a person called Jalaluddin. Jalaluddin. Jalaluddin was the successor of Khwarizm Shah. And Mongol or Genghis Khan had a rule that if I conquer an area, I will not let that ruler live. So if he enters Ghurid Empire, he will kill Yalduz. If he enters Khwarizm Empire, it is his single-handed mission. He never lets the ruler survive. Now, Genghis Khan enters the Khwarizm Empire. But this fool Jalaluddin, rather than defending the empire, he starts to run. And rather than running towards the west, he starts to run towards the east. And though Genghis Khan did not have a plan to go for the Ghuridian Empire, Jalaluddin goes into the Ghuridian Empire. And in pursuit of Jalaluddin, Genghis Khan enters the Ghuridian Empire also. Yalduz did not know what happened. Yalduz got killed. But Jalaluddin still did not came into the hands of Genghis Khan. And this fool crossed over the Indus and entered into the Indian subcontinent. Now, invariably, Jalaluddin has brought Genghis Khan till the Indus. Genghis Khan may or may not have gone towards the Indus River, but in pursuit, it was his ego. Genghis Khan, you can't evade Genghis Khan. In his ego, he is now sitting. Jalaluddin is now running in Delhi, in the Delhi Sultanate and in India itself. Now Iltutmish gets to know that the Khwarizmi prince Jalaluddin has crossed over and Genghis Khan is moving towards the Indus River. Now Iltutmish knew that if he does not stop Genghis Khan, and if Genghis Khan enters into the Indian subcontinent will be like a buffet for him, because he loved to destroy civilizations and cultures, and India is a melting pot of civilizations and cultures. So what Iltutmish does is that he very quickly moved from Delhi. He very quickly moved from Delhi to the Indus River itself. He reaches before Genghis Khan could reach, and now reaches Genghis Khan on the Indus River, angry and poised in pursuit of Jalaluddin, a Khwarizmi prince. Iltutmish does something very strategic. Rather than letting Genghis Khan cross the river, he goes towards his side. He goes towards his side and says that, and now you see his diplomacy. He says, how is the mighty Mongol emperor Genghis Khan sitting at the Indus River? So now he's appeasing him. He knows he can't fight him, so he's appeasing him. So Mongol Genghis Khan says that I am in pursuit of Jalaluddin. I am in pursuit of Jalaluddin, and I have heard that he's crossed the Indus River. Iltutmish knew what Jalaluddin, who was Jalaluddin, and he had crossed the Indus River. So Iltutmish says to Genghis Khan, this is all documented in Delhi Sultanate history and in Mongolian documents also. I'm just dramatizing it. It's not the way it happened, but that is the way it was. Iltutmish says to Genghis Khan, Acha, Jalaluddin, give me his name. I'll find him. I'll find him. Why would you, Genghis Khan, take the effort to cross the Indus and then go look for Jalaluddin? मैं नाचीज कर दूंगा. I will do it. I am Iltutmish. Think of me like your younger brother. Whole of Delhi Sultanate is yours only. अभी कल ही बोल रहा था मैं. I was just saying yesterday that how we are so glad that Genghis Khan is there and everything we do in Genghis Khan's name only. So why do you need to cross? I'll do it. And I brought something for you. Take this. Sit. Enjoy the view. Indus is a good view. I'll find Jalaluddin for you. And Iltutmish, in a way, stopped Genghis Khan from crossing the river. Through his diplomacy, he made sure that Genghis Khan remained on the left bank or on the western bank. And now Iltutmish starts a drama, because what Iltutmish knows is that if he gives Jalaluddin, and Jalaluddin was caught by Iltutmish men at least 1 week back before Mongols came, if Jalaluddin is given to Mongols, he will kill Jalaluddin. Genghis Khan will kill Jalaluddin. And then a person who basically has made killing people a sport, what would he do? After killing Jalaluddin, he would then turn his attention towards which area? He would say that my next target, this Indian subcontinent, seems to be a good idea. So he would want to add the empire in his empire, Indian subcontinent. So Iltutmish had to delay giving Jalaluddin as late as possible. And for 3 months, Iltutmish every day went and met and gave gifts to Genghis Khan, single-handedly kept him there. Whilst doing this drama that we found him there, we are in pursuit of him, whilst he was basically already caught. And Iltutmish, a Turk, is now making sure that a Mongol does not cross the river. And literally, fortunately for India, literally, fortunately for the Indian subcontinent, in the third month, there is a rebellion which happens in the Caspian Sea sector in the Mongol Empire. And Genghis Khan gets to know that the Mongol Empire western sector has now gone into rebellion. And now Iltutmish, he says to Iltutmish, kill Jalaluddin for me. Iltutmish says, sure, with pleasure, I'll send you a photo also. And Mongol goes back. Or Genghis Khan goes back. 1218 was a very critical juncture for the Indian subcontinent, because if by mistake or in pursuit of Jalaluddin, who will later be killed by Iltutmish himself, if the Delhi Sultanate would not have stopped, or the concept that if Genghis Khan would not have gone back, this would have then implicated something totally different for the Indian subcontinent. Delhi Sultanate did this for India or for their selfish gains for ruling India? Well, you're talking like a Britisher. Acha. Good. The rulers I've been talking about from ancient India, from Genghis Khan did not come back, maybe I tell you, someone else will. From Ajat Shatru to Ashoka to Samudragupta, all were doing it for the Indian subcontinent, right? Individual interest thoda na tha. They had no selfish interest. Rulers always do it for themselves, right? Rulers always do it for others. Selfless hote hain. The first thing which comes in your mind as soon as you hear about a politician and a king is that kitna selfless hai. How selfless this person is. Now, this is why I tell you that you're talking like a Britisher. If the name of that ruler would not have been Iltutmish, you would have not asked me that question only. That is the irony of this story. That is the problem of this story. This is the problem with this area itself. In their selfishness, they saved Indian subcontinent. Sure, why not? So, I'm not asking you to go and now go to Iltutmish's tomb and basically do puja for him. I'm not asking you to do that. But Iltutmish is doing it to protect the Delhi Sultanate. And Delhi Sultanate is Indian subcontinent. And Indian subcontinent is Indian culture. Iltutmish, whatever it may be, he is protecting the Indian subcontinent. Understand this point. You are by asking this question, you are already falling into a major trap. For example, when in any instance before this, I said that a ruler conquered something, a ruler fought with somebody, you didn't ask me this question. I'm trying to remove this impulse. A lot of you want to ask this question, but only some of you had the courage to ask it. So I like the fact that you ask it. But the point is that this impulse which is inside you is all that WhatsApp university coming out. This is the unfortunate truth about teaching medieval India itself. At time and again, you will ask me this question. That should we be grateful? Now, I leave it to you that Iltutmish is the one who single-handedly did not allow Genghis Khan to cross over the river. Now you want to credit the Delhi Sultanate for, or the Delhi Sultan for protecting, or you want to call it his selfishness, it is your call. But that will not change history. History is open to interpretation, it is your call. But my basic suggestion to you is going to be, in the UPSC interview, then be ready to pretend for 20 to 30 minutes of who you really not are. Because if you will start to make these statements in an academic setting or in a setting where you have stakes and people who are much more learned than you, there will be a problem. So, for the purpose of this discussion, Mongols will always remain a threat, and the Delhi Sultanate will always stand between the Mongols and the Indian subcontinent. So, you are asking if it is selfishness or we need to be grateful. The question itself is irrelevant. If you are, by saying that should I be grateful amongst them, you are othering them. Are you grateful for what Ashoka did? Are you grateful for someone else what they did? There you made them a part of you. So you are proud that, okay, Ashoka was that. Right now you want to give them credit. So that is called othering. I have seen answers in which, for most of ancient India, people write we. And as soon as they go into medieval, they write they. This we and they itself is indicative of something much more inherent. And I said you're talking like a Britisher because this is what the British taught us. This is what British taught us. And one thing very clear, if you are talking about being selfish for a ruler, then you're describing a ruler. All rulers are selfish. We are what we are today because Iltutmish did not allow Genghis Khan to come. And the threat has not gone. If you allow me, there is not one but 5 different waves of Mongols who will come, and different rulers will make sure that throughout Delhi Sultanate history, they will stand between the Indian subcontinent in their selfishness to protect their own empire. So, in the prelims examination in 2022, they asked a straightforward question in which they said that is the statement correct or not, which is that Iltutmish stopped Genghis Khan from crossing whilst pursuit of a fugitive Khwarizmi prince called Jalaluddin. And that is why I'm telling you this story, not for you to be grateful to somebody or for you to call them selfish. So can I now take the Mongol story forward, because this is the first instance of Genghis Khan himself standing here. And I can guarantee to you that Delhi Sultanate was the reason why Mongols never came. And Jalaluddin will be killed by Iltutmish later. And one thing should also be clear is that whatever we are today, we are what we are because the Mongols never crossed. Because Genghis Khan and his first generation sons were extremely brutal. So in 1218, Iltutmish evades a very important Mongolian invasion through his diplomatic skills. Can I take the story forward? Because I have to give you one slide in which all instances are there together. Now, this did not mean that the Mongol threat was gone. It's not about it. This is a more important conversation than what I'm teaching you. In 1227, Genghis Khan will die. And between 1227 to 1241, the Mongols were in a disarray. Basically, Genghis Khan had a very bad tradition, which he will already nominate before he dies. Mongols in disarray, which is the concept of dividing the empire amongst sons. Dividing the empire amongst sons. And basically, Genghis Khan, with the level of empire he has and the way he treats women, had too many sons. Yes, Pooja, they don't have a different culture, they have similarity of culture. That whole China to Mongolia to that Central Asian sector. Disarray means issues. But this disarray period between 1227 to 1241 will get consolidated in the northwestern sector. Two persons, Ter Bahadur and Halaku, are father and son duo who will rule the northwestern sector of the Mongol Empire. And both, much like their grandfather, were also, the real name of Genghis Khan is Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, Genghis Khan, whatever you want to call him. So now Teher Bahadur and Halaku were interested in India, and while Genghis Khan was managed by a person called Iltutmish, Balban was cognizant of the fact that he is the fourth ruler of the Mamluk dynasty. Balban was cognizant of the fact that they are interested in India. That they are interested in India. And for the same reason, Balban never left Delhi for a very long period. And from his rule starting to end, every month he used to go and appease Ter Bahadur and Halaku. So both Iltutmish and Balban, through diplomacy, mitigated the issue of the Mongols across the Indus. However, that did not mean that all went well vis-a-vis just having what we call as simple diplomatic issues. In 1292, Abdullah rose again as a Mongol, and in front of him was Jalaluddin Khilji. And in the history of interaction between the Mongols and the Delhi Sultanate, the Mongols attacked the northwestern sector. Northwestern sectors. For the first time, they crossed the Indus. And Jalaluddin Khilji in 1292 defeated Abdullah comprehensively to make sure that he does not cross or the Mongols don't enter India. So while the first two interactions were based on diplomacy, mitigation, a real threat did emerge in 1292, the first invasion, proper invasion of the Mongols, which was Jalaluddin Khilji's most important contribution to Indian history, which is to stop Abdullah from crossing the Beas and then entering till Delhi. A person famous for his movies, Alauddin Khilji will then face Abdullah's successors, Dawa Khan and Kutlug Khwaja. Alauddin Khilji will have multiple excursions with the Mongols, and for that same reason he needed a very big army for which he will do the market reforms. And Dawa Khan and Kutlug Khwaja also had territorial ambitions towards India. Whilst 1297 was the last time the Mongols ever actually interacted properly, the only Mongol who entered into India and reached Delhi is a person called Tamrashirin. Tamrashirin defeated Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he was the first Mongol to reach Delhi. He took certain parts away from him also. And after Tamrashirin, as it is by the period of 1398, we will have a different invader called Timur, who will defeat the last Tughlaq emperor, Mahmud Tughlaq, to establish his empire in India via the Sayyids. But basically, these are the 5 interactions. If I add 1218 as Iltutmish versus Genghis Khan, these are the dates which you need to remember. Alauddin Khilji obviously won. He won. He won. He won. Only person to be defeated was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. 1218, Jalaluddin Khwarizmi crossed the Indus. Iltutmish mitigated it. 1227, Genghis Khan dies. Iltutmish is already out of power. But 1241, Ter Bahadur and Halaku consolidate power within the divided Mongol Empire in the northwestern sector, become a threat. Balban mitigates it. And 1297, after Balban's mitigation, it will be 1297 and 1292 when the Mongol called Abdullah with a very big army reached the Indus and crossed it. It was Jalaluddin Khilji who defeated Abdullah to make sure that he does not reach till Delhi. And after Jalaluddin Khilji, his nephew Alauddin Khilji managed Kutluk Khwaja and Dawa Khan's excursions and pressure into the Indian subcontinent. And it will only be a person called Tamrashirin who will defeat Muhammad bin Tughlaq in 1327 to cross over the Indus and reach till Delhi, the first Mongol to reach Delhi in that regard. So it will basically take from 12-1800 years for the Mongols to reach. Why didn't Tamrashirin assimilate India into his empire? Because Muhammad bin Tughlaq had the power to repel, at least hold a certain part. He was able to take it, loot it, went back. But Muhammad bin Tughlaq is not that weak. Is not that weak. And as it is by 1327, Mongols have got literally fragmented too much. The point which I'm trying to argue is 1218, Genghis Khan versus Iltutmish did not enter. 1241 did not enter. 1292 did not enter. 1297 did not enter. 1327, Tamrashirin defeated Muhammad bin Tughlaq and reached Delhi. 2023 itself, there's a question which has come from this area. There's a lot of confusion about that question, what UPSC will go with it. But we don't know what the answer to that question is. 2023, one question from medieval first statement itself was, the first Mongolian invasion happened under Jalaluddin Khilji. Now that statement is correct and incorrect both. Because first invasion is 1218, but that is technically not an invasion. And Jalaluddin Khilji, very simply, on the other hand, had the proper invasion. Rahul, I don't know what are you apologizing for. Write your question rather than writing these big statements. I have not seen one of the statement questions which you are writing. So I can only respond to your question if I see it. So proper combat is 1292. 1218 is Iltutmish versus Genghis Khan. So now it is on UPSC to decide how do you define first an invasion. Genghis Khan also came to Indus River, so that will also be termed as invasion. That is the mega the point. Either in the answer is B, either the answer is C, 1 and 3 or 3. That is totally on UPSC to decide. Now that, see, you don't decide how the invasion is going to be there. How that invasion is going to be there. You don't decide that. That is on the UPSC examiner to decide. How does it see first? How does it see invasion? Once I've done, we will do that question once we have covered the Vijayanagara Bahmani. 3 statements are there, you only know 1 statement right now. Prince, I don't know, I should validate your question or I should ignore it. You tell me, what should I do? How many questions, previous year questions from this topic? I'm telling you, back to back 3 years, one question is coming. Sir, now Prince's question is, I leave it to the class. Prince's question is, Sir, Mongols, Turks, Mughals, all are brutal and cruel. Then is it right to say that Turks and Mughals saved Indian subcontinent from Mongols? Is it like one cruel person saving another cruel person? अब मुझे नहीं पता मैं क्या बोलूं इसमें. There is so much to unpack and so much to, but there is so much value loaded statements which are there. So I'll really not validate by answering this question, because I don't know what you're trying to argue here, Prince. Actually, the point is, I know what you're trying to argue, but I don't want to validate that argument. So 1.5 lakh people were killed in the Kalinga war, 99 brothers were slaughtered, 1 lakh people were injured. पता नहीं कौन brutal है. I don't know. I have no idea. I am not the right person to ask this question. As much as I have the strength and the capacity and the intellect to answer this question, it is of no purpose for UPSC. But all the best in the interview, because you will steer it to something where it should not go. So cruelty, brutality, how you define it, how subjective it is, as it is, I know where that question is coming from, and I know where your information is coming from, and I know what it is. So let's really not go that line. That lane is, you will basically, your fundamentals will be shaken, which I don't want to. So let's keep it simple. अभी तक खून खराबा नहीं हुआ है. Let's not do that. Let's straight away go to now political history. Can I do that? Can I do that, Prince? You get my point? नहीं, okay sir लिखने से होगा नहीं ना. You wrote that question and now you want an answer for that, but I don't want to give you that answer, because brutality, I will rather suggest you something, which is, there's a book which recently was published by Upinder Singh herself. It's called Political Violence in Ancient India. If you have the time and if you are interested in getting the answer to that question, you can please go through that question. There's a misnomer about ancient India that it was not violent or there was no war, but the whole story is, I have sanitized the history for you. When there will be rulers, there will be monarchs, there will be bloodshed for sure. And that is also true. Anjali is saying that where did the Mughals come from? When we are talking about Delhi Sultanate, but somehow Mughals are part of that conversation. कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात. Okay. It's called Political Violence in Ancient India. Very recent book. I think she was the head of department when I was in MPhil. Then she published it. You can read it. It's an academic book. It's a good book. Okay. Can we say that Delhi Sultan's rulers protect only not doing anything wrongly for ancient? Rahul, I don't know what you mean by that. Not only doing wrongly of ancient. भाई देखो ऐसा है. I'll say one thing to you. You don't curse Curzon. Every time something when happens, you don't talk about Lithgow. This is the victory of the British. That they did much worse to us, but in one one breath. एक सांस में you never take the British and the Mughals together. This is the irony of the story. They looted us, they drained us, they did Jallianwala Bagh. Crores of people died in famines. Curzon, Dalhousie, Linlithgow, Wavell, Mountbatten, nobody is going to take their name. Rather, certain areas in our streets are named after it. They have been much more brutaler. The most brutal rule in India has been British. But unfortunately, we never talk about the British. This is the victory of the British. That they taught us how to fight ourselves so that the blame never comes on them. So, moving away from the Mongol question, and I will show it to you in the previous year questions, UPSC is sprinkling this area, Mongol question. Can I now talk about the rulers? I have discussed with you 18, 27, 41, 92, 97 and 13, 27. Okay, now let's talk about these rulers. The first is the Mamluk dynasty, and we will basically cover the basic political history before we stop today. I hope you all are clear. 1327. After that, the Mongols became too weak. Timur started to rise. I'll tell you what happened. Central Asian politics changes. I hope everybody is on the same page with me. You agree, disagree? We are discussing Delhi Sultanate, and I understand your value loaded questions also, and I'm extremely glad and grateful for them. But I'm sorry I cannot answer them here. Separate issue altogether. That's a separate conversation. That may be a question for social issues and an academic session, a healing session for most of you. Okay. Now, when we talk about the Mamluk dynasty, Kutubuddin Aibak is the establisher. Iltutmish, Razia is the most unfortunate in this set. Then you have Balban. These two are considered to be two consolidators. And the last one is Kekubat, who will be murdered by Jalaluddin Khilji to capture power. I'll tell you why did Jalaluddin Khilji kill him to capture power. Now, Kutubuddin Aibak, most important contribution, as we already know, was to remove the Indian subcontinent from Central Asian politics. And it was Yalduz who was asserting. So when Yalduz asserting his power, he basically, Razia is a girl. Is a girl. She's a woman rather, not a girl, but a woman. Yalduz claimed that he was ruling over Delhi, but Kutubuddin Aibak said no, and he basically severed the ties between Central Asia and India, which is going to be very strategic and important in the later stories. He will get multiple titles in material to you, but he died whilst playing what is called polo in 1210. Now, Kutubuddin Aibak had a son and had a very important son-in-law. And Iltutmish is basically the son-in-law of Kutubuddin Aibak. Kutubuddin Aibak is the one who started the construction of the Qutub Minar. He will be the one who will finish the construction. But Iltutmish is known for two, three very important things. Iltutmish is the one who basically stabilized the empire. Iltutmish kept the Mongol threat out. Bakhtiyar Khilji is one of the commanders of Kutubuddin Aibak who went to Bengal, famously known for burning down Nalanda and Vikramshila. Now, Mongol threat, Iltutmish came the Mongol threat out, which is Genghis Khan, and he did three very more important things for us. First is that he introduced the Ikta system. This I will discuss with you tomorrow, so no questions here. He will be the one who will complete Qutub Minar, not a very significant point. He will consolidate and expand the empire. He will introduce new currency, which is Tanka and Jittal. Tanka is a silver coin. Very rarely did the gold coin be issued by the Delhi Sultanate. Jittal is copper coin, a word which is used for copper till today. Jittal Pittal. The word Pittal comes from Jittal. Pittal is nothing but copper. So consolidate and expand. But the most dangerous thing which he started is called the Chahal Gani, or called the Dal Chalisa. He introduced it in the empire. Now, what is this Dal Chalisa? Because this will be the this will weaken the resolve and the power of the Delhi Sultanate also very soon. So, the Sultan was considered the first among equal, along with 40 ministers. And these 40 ministers were called Dal Chalisa or Chahalgani or Chahalgani. Basically, the Sultan is not considered too extraordinary. He is just the first among equals around his council of ministers. So think of it like the prime minister and council of ministers. The prime minister is the first among equals in his cabinet. So the Chahalgani system is basically like the cabinet system. But can anybody tell me what is the precondition for this system to be stable? What is the precondition? It's a monarchy only, but the king takes decision with 40 ministers. What is the precondition? Very good, Pooja. Very good. Chaitanya, very good. Yashpal. The precondition for this system to be stable is Sultan's power needs to be more than the Chahalgani. Because if this is not the case, then you have 40 prime ministers fighting with the prime minister. Basically, for stability, this is very important. Stability, it is very important that the Sultan is much, much, much more powerful, at least more honored and accepted by everybody, because this Chahalgani is a decision-making body which can also destabilize the empire. So Iltutmish's contributions saved Delhi Sultanate from Mongol invasion, consolidated Turkic conquest, currency, Tanka and Jittal, Ikta and Chahalgani. And basically it will not be Iltutmish but his daughter who will pay the price for this. Iltutmish dies. Before he dies, he nominates the next ruler. Iltutmish had two sons. I will tell you what is Ikta system tomorrow, Shweta. Iltutmish has two sons and one daughter. Rather than nominating his two sons, which he believed were incompetent, drunkards, drug addicts, he nominated going against the tradition of Islamic rule and Islamic norms. Iltutmish nominated his daughter Razia as the next emperor, as the next sultan. And Razia was a very good administrator. She was a very good administrator. She knew very good hunting, along with she was a very good military general also. But unfortunately, the story of Razia is the story of women in India, which is that as soon as Razia came to power, the Chahalgani lost it. And they said that how can we report to a woman? We will not report to a woman. The Chahalgani now started to undercut the power of Razia, and the Sultan's power started to go down. And the Chahalgani's power started to go up. And Razia, though, because she gave up all womanly clothing, all forms of parda, she just sat in the empress, in the sultan's chair as a sultan, without wheeling, without anything. And that is what the people did not like. So in a misogynist society, in a misogynist system, she was too assertive for them, and she was not going to be something which everybody was going to accept. Iltutmish was very ahead of his time, maybe thousands of years ahead of his time, to actually nominate his daughter as the ruler. Because, Rashida, why he did not give it to their son? Because sons were incompetent. And Iltutmish knew that Delhi Sultanate would be basically too weak under them, and he rather thought that his daughter was more deserving and was more competent to hold to the Delhi Sultanate. But problem was that the Chahalgani did not see the same thing. She was good. She was able to manage two rebellions, what, three wars, all of which she won. But then she became the victim of Chahalgani politics. Story starts is that first she had an Ethiopian, which is a North African person who his name is Yakut Khan. Yakut Khan was the uh, in charge of the horse stables of Delhi Sultanate, which is a very big position to control all horses. And people then started to make stories about the fact that how Razia and Yakut Khan were lovers, which was technically not true. That was a Chahalgani based concept so as to discredit her power. And there will be two rebellions in which one she will manage very well, which is the Lahore rebellion. The governor said, I will not be ruled by a woman. So she went there, defeated him, and made him accept her rule. But in the second one, which is the Sarhind one, the Chahalgani had other plans. Chahalgani, what they did was that she was able to defeat the governor, but on her way back, she will be captured by a person called Altunia. Altunia was paid off by the Chahalgani to kill Razia. They will kill Yakut Khan, but Razia will convince Altunia to not kill her, but marry her. And as soon as she will marry Altunia, she will then evade Altunia and then again try to go and capture Delhi. But she will again be killed on the outskirts of Delhi by the bandits or thugs who had been paid off by the Chahalgani. So under Razia, the power of the Chahalgani actually became too much and the Sultan's position had been compromised. Now, unfortunately, Razia was very, very, very good when it came to a ruler, but she became part of or became a victim of male politics. She is the only, imagine, she's the only Delhi Sultanate ruler who has not been buried in the Qutub complex. She is actually buried on the outskirts of Delhi. And the place in history which she deserved, she did not get. So, for the women in the class, always remember there will always be a Chahalgani around you. And it's something you always have to go against and fight. She was the first example of how people cannot accept women as rulers. And now the Delhi Sultanate is an internal crisis in a way. So, when we talk about Razia marked her beginning, the rule beginning with a power struggle with the Chahalgani itself. She discarded female apparel, started holding court unveiled, and started hunting and leading people into the army, into the war itself. She did expeditions against Ranthambore to control the Rajputs and establish law and order in length and breadth of her kingdom. Rebellions broke out at Lahore and Sirhind, and she personally went there. While she managed Lahore, on her way back from Sirhind, an internal rebellion broke out where Yakut Khan will be killed. Razia will be imprisoned at Tabar Hinda by Altunia. Altunia, she will convince, basically, in a way to make sure that she does not die, she marries Altunia, and later she has a renewed attempt on Delhi. Razia fought valiantly but was defeated by certain forest bandits who had been paid out by the Chahalgani itself. So Razia, 4 years of a lot of instability, and the Delhi Sultanate is politically very vulnerable to the Chahalgani itself. Right? Okay. Uh, how Iltutmish great thought. So then son-in-law can Satya Prasad is saying then son-in-law can take up the position. No. But unfortunately, Razia had not married Satya Prasad. So a man was not able to take power. He did not have a son-in-law. But that question has again an undertone which is quite obvious. He did not have a son-in-law because Razia शादी करेगी तब son-in-law होगा ना. Razia is not married. So he has two sons and one daughter. He has no other option to give it to the daughter because all the other two are basically useless. Okay. Now, why is there a need for having Chahalgani? But it was an old tradition. It's a Turkish tradition. So Iltutmish was powerful enough. When you're confident, you are powerful enough. He knew that he could manage the Chahalgani. Okay. Yeah, well, a lot of you are talking about Indira Gandhi and they syndicate the same thing. That was the whole fight over Vivigiri. And if you've done modern India, you would know, or we've done it previously also in modern India, the whole Vivigiri and Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy issue. Okay. Now, Soumya, just that you have to fight the society. Okay. Can I take the story forward a little bit more further? Because now comes the second consolidator. Okay. Now, a person called Ulugh Khan. Ulugh Khan. He was the mentor of the youngest son of Iltutmish, basically a child. And Razia is dead. So now that child comes to power, but he is basically a child. So Ulugh Khan starts to become the mentor of the child, starts to mentor the child, basically raise him. And whilst that was happening, the Chahalgani was becoming more and more powerful. And as soon as Ulugh Khan sees the right moment, he kills Iltutmish's son and he captures power under the name Balban. Under the name Balban. So Balban loitered around, waited for things to become a little bit stable. And then Balban captured power by killing the son of Iltutmish. Now, Balban is a very important personality because he was able to stabilize the empire again because he did four very important things. First, we already knew that he mitigated the Mongol threat via diplomacy. He never left Delhi for too long because he knew that the Mongols would move towards Delhi. But Balban wanted to break the back of the Chahalgani. What Iltutmish had created, he wanted to bring back the power of the Sultan. So as to restore the power of the Sultan, he did four very important things. First, Balban created a story that I am a very important Turk and he is the descendant of Afrasiab. Now, basically, it's who is this Balban? Balban is the mentor of Iltutmish's son, captures power. That is more than enough for you to know. Balban comes after Razia. Now, basically, calling yourself the descendant of Afrasiab is calling yourself the descendant of Lord Ram. That I am no one else but the descendant of the greatest king who had ever been in India. Same way, he is now saying in Iranian tradition, Afrasiab is considered to be a legendary king. So he says that I am this grand, great grandson of Afrasiab. And then he does two things. He introduces the policy of purity and blood and iron. And then he introduced the Iranian traditions in order to show the Chahalgani their place. The Iranian traditions which he introduced are Sijda and Paibos. Basically, the Chahalgani was too overactive. So what he did was he said, in my court we will follow Sijda Paibos. Sijda Paibos is the concept that whenever you come to the king, you first kiss his legs, then his hands, then you do Sijda proper salutation. And under Paibos, you cannot show the king your back ever. So basically, he showed the Chahalgani who they should be. कि क्या औकात है उनकी. That you are the Chahalgani, act like the Chahalgani. So he's basically humiliating the Chahalgani to reduce their power and control over the court. But what is even more significant is he introduces the policy of purity and blood and iron. He started to say that whenever I see a mixed Turk, because he is basically a Turk, both mother and father are Turks. He said, if I see an Afghan, if I see a Indian Muslim, if I see a non-Turk, if I see Turk and Afghan, my blood boils. And the Chahalgani was of mixed origin. So what he does is he removes every mixed race or ethnicity from court. So, for example, mother was a Turk, father was Afghan. He'll remove. And that is basically the story of the Khiljis. In this process, the Khiljis will be removed from position because Khiljis are half Turk, half Afghan. They'll be removed from their position. And one concept was that if Balban finds anybody to be any Chahalgani officer to be doing something wrong, he will first give the Chahalgani officer very harsh punishment, but he used to give the whole same punishment to the family also. So if the punishment of that person is that he will be lashed 40 times, 40 kode padenge. So he was also given it. His wife, his brother, his father, his son, whole family was brought in and done. And basically, he showed a attitude which was based on ruthless power. And basically, by the end of it, he will disband the Chahalgani and restore power back in the Balban or in the Sultanate itself, in the Sultan's position itself. And this was necessary because if the Chahalgani became too powerful, it would have divided the Delhi Sultanate into too many parts. So Balban that way is considered the first person who was able to establish properly after Iltutmish a strong and centralized government. He broke the back of the Chahalgani and restored the power of the monarchy. He's also the one who established a proper department for military, which is called the Diwane Arz. I will discuss all these Diwane with you in the administrative position or administrative section, which we do tomorrow. Balban also sought to increase the prestige and the power of the monarchy. So he started to say that he was the descendant of Afrasiab. He followed the policy of blood and iron to restore law and order, refused to entertain any position given to anyone who is not fully noble born and Turkish born, though he himself was not actually that. He excluded all Indian Muslims, Khiljis, every mixed race to be removed, and introduced Sijda Paibos, and then used to call himself Zilullah, which is I am shadow of God on earth. And nobody is more pious and powerful than me. Afrasiab, as I told you, is a legendary king in Iranian tradition. Thereafter, he is also the one who will manage the Ter Bahadur Halaku issue. So he will mitigate the Mongol issue because of the fact that he will never go too far away from Delhi. He will have a strong centralized army. And in 1286, when Balban will die, the power of the king had been restored. But the point was his son, Kekubat, will be killed by another set of officers who were very, very mad at what Balban had done, and Kekubat will be killed by the Khiljis, specifically Jalaluddin Khilji. And Alauddin Khilji, the two most powerful kings of the Khilji dynasty. And Nasruddin Khusrav Shah will be killed by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq for the Tughlaqs to come to power. But the point is, by the time Jalaluddin captures power, the North Indian sector has been established and consolidated by the Khilji dynasty. Now, Khiljis, their coming up is called a Khilji revolution, because Khiljis are half Turks, half Afghans. Was Bakhtiar Khilji was one of the generals. They are descendants of Bakhtiar Khilji in a way. See, all Khiljis are not the same. Khilji position, if you have a title called Khilji, you are half Afghan, you are half Turk. That is why they're called. Cholas are still chilling in the south. Cholas are enjoying everything in the south. They don't care what is happening in North India. By 1206, Cholas will become weak, but they're still there. They are. I will Anjali tomorrow, and centralized or decentralized. I will tell you that ICTA is a centralized, decentralized model. Now, Turks and Afghans is their origin. That is why they're called. They changed the whole Delhi Sultanate forever, because now not a Turk is ruling. Again, Nirbhay, either you're listening to me or you're listening to someone else. Bakhtiar, not a Khilji. The Bakhtiar is a Khilji. That is why his name is called Bakhtiar Khilji. The one who burned Nalanda was also a Khilji. Khiljis come from this mixed origin from Afghanistan, part of the Delhi Sultanate as part of the Chahalgani. Clear, Nirbhay? Can I move forward? Very good. Now Jalaluddin Khilji, we already know that his most important contribution is to fight Abdullah. And Jalaluddin Khilji was also a very tolerant man, meaning that he brought in all mixed origins together. Indian Muslims were given a lot of positions. Even certain officers were Hindu at this point of time. Jalaluddin Khilji is basically not very ruthless and is not very, very ambitious, unlike his nephew. And in this 4 year, rather than in 6 years itself, Jalaluddin was able to foster the empire in a good way. So he's of Turkish Afghan origin, defeated the Mongols. He is basically a tolerant person. However, he was not liked by his own nephew, or he was the uncle of Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin Khilji is an ambitious man. He did not like how the Mughal Empire, the Delhi Sultanate was only in the northern sector. He wanted to expand it further. And he needed to capture power. Now, the fact is that somehow there is a scene which has been etched into your mind, which shows Jalaluddin being killed by Alauddin to capture power. If you've not seen it, very good. If you've seen it, it's basically wrong. How Alauddin captured power. Alauddin captured power in a very much more intricate way than what has been depicted in popular imagination. And it was based on him basically showing to everybody in the empire itself how powerful he was. The story of Alauddin Khilji capturing power is based on an incident near the Ganga. So Alauddin Khilji was coming back from the Bengal sector, whilst Jalaluddin was in the Delhi sector, and Alauddin called Jalaluddin to the Agra and Mathura sector itself. And on the banks of the river Ganga, not on Yamuna but on the Ganga, they met. They met. And Alauddin Khilji, that is fiction. That is what I'm trying to say. What you saw in a certain movie was fiction. Alauddin Khilji said to Jalaluddin that I want to talk to you something. So Jalaluddin said that sure, everybody here is my friend. You can talk here. So Alauddin said that no, it's something very important. We need to talk in private. He said, okay. He said, what do you propose? He said, let's do one thing. Let's take a boat to the middle of the river, and there we can talk without nobody listening. So what will happen is that Jalaluddin, whilst trusting his nephew itself, how Jalaluddin came to power by not killing Balban but his son, minor son, to capture power. So Jalaluddin and Alauddin are in this boat, and now Jalaluddin says to Alauddin, what was you want to talk about? And Alauddin Khilji takes out a knife and stabs his uncle multiple times and throws him into the river. Now Alauddin Khilji comes back and he asks that, does anybody have an issue in what I did? So the most close associates of Jalaluddin said yes. With his own personal army there, he stabs that person also, throws that person in the Ganga and says again this question. Does anybody have any issue in what I did? 2-3 people say yes. They all get stabbed and thrown into the river. And later he pays off everyone in Jalaluddin's faction. And Alauddin captured power by basically killing his uncle and asserting control. Now, Alauddin's most important contribution generally would be fighting with Abdullah, but not Abdullah, but rather Kutlu Khwaja and Dawa Khan. But his empire, his campaigns were very, very, very elaborate. He is the only Delhi Sultanate ruler to have reached till Thanjavur, which is now the Cholas have started to become weak. So he will now reach to the feudatories of the Cholas. And starting from 1396, from 1296, rather from 1296 till 1316, he will very elaborately expand the empire and keep on adding it to the whole sector. So from going via the Bengal sector to the Warangal sector, defeating the Kakatiyas, to the Yadavas, to the Thanjavur sector, to the Pandyas, to going to Gujarat, to Chittor, to Ranthambore, he was a very, very powerful king. And he also had one very powerful general who has again been shown in very different light, and his name is Malik Kafur. Malik Kafur was a eunuch. You don't need to remember this, ma'am. He's a eunuch. Eunuch means the third gender. And Malik Kafur was that ways a eunuch, but Alauddin Khilji saw in him a very important military streak. And that is why Malik Kafur was the most important general of Alauddin Khilji and most competent. But again, in popular imagination, Malik Kafur has been shown as a little bit of a person who basically does not instill fear, but rather something totally different. But when Malik Kafur used to sit in his chamber, or when Malik Kafur used to go from somewhere, people used to literally fear for life that he will not say something to him. That is the power of Malik Kafur itself. But again, in popular imagination shown in different ways. He will again have very standard rules that he banned all use of wines and intoxicants. No marriages could happen between different nobles without his permission. But the most important contribution of Alauddin Khilji is what is called as market reforms. As market reforms, we will discuss market reforms tomorrow. Now, by the time Nasruddin Khusro Khilji is killed by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, the power of the Delhi Sultanate had expanded quite a lot, with certain Rajput dynasties holding this Jajnagar sector, which also in a way accepted the power of the Sultanate itself. But the area which I've marked is the expanse of the Delhi Sultanate vis-a-vis where Alauddin Khilji left it. Now the Tughlaqs will come into the picture. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, again not a very competent ruler, but he built a new city called Tughlaqabad, and Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was able to manage the empire okayish, but he has a very ambitious son called Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq's death is surrounded with a lot of controversy and a lot of mystery, because he went up against a very important Sufi saint named Nizamuddin Aulia. I'll teach you Sufism, and I'll tell that in Chishti Sufis, you have Moinuddin Chishti, you have Bakhtiyar Kaki, then you have Baba Farid, and then you have Nizamuddin Aulia. The whole of Nizamuddin sector of Delhi is named after him. The Aulia sect, Aulia's Dargah is also very, very important. Cholas were already gone by the time Khiljis reached Thanjavur. Now, Tughlaqs, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq hated Nizamuddin Aulia, because Nizamuddin Aulia that ways was very, very influential. And as a king, you don't like the fact that people are influential, that there's a parallel power center. So there's a story that Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq told his workers to work throughout the night, and the workers did not have oil, so they went to Nizamuddin Aulia, and Nizamuddin Aulia said that you fill up the oils with water and they will burn, and they burnt. That is the mystery of Nizamuddin Aulia. But it is believed that Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq died because of the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia. Want to hear the story? 2-minute story, but interesting that ways. How he basically got killed. The story goes like this: that Tughlaqabad fort was reaching its completion. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq had to go to the Gujarat sector. So whilst going to Gujarat sector, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq sends a small farman or a small letter to Nizamuddin Aulia that if I come back from Gujarat, I am going to Gujarat. When I come back from Gujarat, you should be gone from Delhi. You should be gone from Delhi. And basically, he threatened Nizamuddin Aulia that I will kill you if I come back and I see you in Delhi. Nizamuddin Aulia did not say anything. Nizamuddin Aulia is a Sufi saint, a very powerful Chishti Sufi saint, very influential with the people. And now he goes to Gujarat and he is coming back. Nizamuddin Aulia has not gone anywhere. Now, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq sends a small message 50-60 kilometers away from Delhi that I hope that you have left Delhi because I am reaching Delhi. In that context, there's a very important line which Nizamuddin Aulia says, which is still today considered very important in military history, which is Abhi Dilli dur hai, Dilli durast. That Abhi Dilli dur hai, you come. And it is believed that the Tughlaqabad fort was now being inaugurated, and the moment Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq entered the gate, his elephant got stuck in the gate and the roof of the gate fell on Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq and he died. So basically on the Chowkhat of Delhi, he said either you will be there or I will be there. And you know who survived? which is called the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia, that he said that either of us will be there. So Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq died. There's one more story that which is the more plausible one, that Muhammad bin Tughlaq wanted to take power as quickly as possible, and therefore he had designed, it was a conspiracy of his son to design the gate in such a way through which he will enter, that once he entered, the elephant would get stuck, and the design was such that the gate would fall on his head. Because we believe that Muhammad bin Tughlaq used to sit in the court of Nizamuddin Aulia also, or in the Dargah of in the Khanka of Nizamuddin Aulia. Now I leave it to you what you want to believe, that is it the curse of Nizamuddin Aulia or his son conspiring against him. But Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq is not known for himself more, but actually for the conflict he had with the Sufi sect. Now comes Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He is considered the most learned mad king, which is, he will do 4 experiments which I will discuss with you, which will literally destabilize the whole empire. But he was very ahead of his time that way. And by the time he will give it to his brother Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the Delhi Sultanate was starting to decline. Very simply, when it comes to political history, whatever is written in the PPT, which I will read it out to you, is more than enough. And the discussion we have in the first 1.5 hours, 2 hours tomorrow is going to be critical for your understanding for the examination. This part of political history, I as it is don't care too much about. Satish Chandra has the story. Every book has a story. If you're interested about where they went hunting, what were they doing, what did they eat, sleep, do, that is of no purpose for the UPSC. But I will tell you the basics of what it is. So I would like to just read this portion out of the PPT, Tughlaq part, and then we can break for today. Political history, establishment, Turkish invasion, all 3 things done. Yes? Chili, whatever I'm saying is important. Now, you have the following rulers, but out of this you have to remember only the first 3. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq. He is the one who will be defeated by Tamr Shirin, sometimes called Mahmud Tughlaq or Nasruddin Muhammad Tughlaq. And Ghiyasuddin, the importance about Tughlaqs is that whilst the Khiljis were Afghan plus Turk, they are Turk plus Indian origin. The mother of the Tughlaqs was a Jat, whilst the father was a Turk, mother was a Jat noble. So they are in a way of Indian origin. So you have Turk Afghan, Turk Jat, which is that makes the Tughlaqs even more closer to the Indian subcontinent. He developed the Tughlaqabad fort, rewarded all the Maliks, had a conflict with Khwaja Nizamuddin Aulia, organized a better postal system, and I'll discuss these 2 issues with you, which is administrative, with you tomorrow. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, very learned, knew Persian, knew Arabic, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, introduced administrative reforms, which I will discuss with you, 4 experiments. He was so unfortunate when it came to agriculture that when he started to increase the taxation, people used to run away into the forest because he was asking for too much at the wrong time. And for the same reason, he developed the Diwan-e-Kohi, agriculture department, to get everything sorted. 4 experiments is something which is very important. We do it tomorrow. Thereafter comes the last major ruler of the Delhi Sultanate, which is Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 1388, though they will go on till 1414. He will establish 2 departments, Khairat, which is giving to the standard people, to the needy people, and Bandaga, a department of slaves to manage all slaves. He will do a blunder when it comes to the Iqtidari system. This you will realize tomorrow when I'll tell you what is the strength of the Iqta for what he's actually done. He will introduce 4 taxes, Kharaj, which is land tax, Khams, which is 1/5 on anybody who's winning a war, Jizya, which was introduced by Kutubuddin Aibak itself. Kutubuddin Aibak. Remember, Jizya is a tax which is paid by a non-Muslim population to a Muslim ruler for protection. And Zakat is a tax which is paid by the Muslim population to the Muslim ruler for religious purposes. He is also the one who established four very important cities: Firozabad, Fatehabad, Jaunpur, and Hisar. And Hisar city, all irrigation canals which exist were developed by Firoz Shah Tughlaq himself. After this, when we come tomorrow, we discuss administration. We will now talk about the departments, ICTA, market reforms, and four experiments. With this the discussion tomorrow is going to be significant and the most important in the larger perspective of your preparation. Backstory is done. I hope. How did the Turks come? Why did Ghazni not come? Why did Gori come? What is the reason and why did he win? First battle of Terrain, second battle of Terrain, the establishment, Mongol question, Mongol theory, and the political history is clear. Yes or no? If it is, we can stop for today. Yes? Perfect. So thank you so much. I will see you tomorrow, same time. And tomorrow's discussion, we will discuss this and then start Vijayanagara Bahamani also. So do not miss tomorrow's class. If you understand Ikta, you will understand Vijayanagara Bahamani, Nayankara, you will understand Mansabdari also very, very well. Okay. How Tughlaq captured power? By killing the last ruler of standard. Last ruler is killed, they capture power. Okay. See you.